Dr. Malcolm has some pretty great one-liners that I think, to Goldblum's credit, he can deliver those lines really well. When he and Nick Van Owen are looking for Sarah, and they're yelling, "Sarah, Sarah!"
Yeah.
And Van Owen says, "Sarah Harding," and Goldblum goes, "Well, how many Sarahs do you think are on this island?"
That's a great one.
Welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We are your hosts, Vincent Hannum
and Matt Levine.
And we're talking about all of our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here.
Family on a yacht cruise stumbled upon Site B. And now it's only a matter of time before this lost world is found and pillaged.
Hopefully we've kept this island quarantined and contained, but I'm in shock about all this. Ooh, that's how it always starts. But then later there's running and then screaming.
What the hell was that?
Go as fast as you can.
I need you to send rescue immediately.
Taking dinosaurs off this island is the worst idea in the history of bad ideas.
Let's get this movable feast underway. Don't move!
What is it?
Mommy's very angry.
This episode of Camp Kaiju is brought to you by the Video Store Minneapolis, a volunteer-run nonprofit with a mission to preserve physical copies of every movie and TV series they can find, create a library of those titles, and to make that library available to the people in their community. In the before times, a place like this was called a video store, and it's time to make one real again. The Video Store Minneapolis' 30-day online Kickstarter fundraiser, yes, for a brick-and-mortar space, is live and active till the end of the month. Give if you can. Go to the video store mpls.org for more, or hit the link in the show notes. Listeners, we got a really special episode for you today. We are joined by Noah from the Cinematic Jurassic Instagram channel. Tens of thousands of followers. This guy's the real deal. He knows his Jurassic Park. Before we get into the conversation, a huge thank you to our Patreon members, paying and non, but of course a special thank you to our financial supporters on Patreon. Jason, Charlie, Chris, Sean, Peggy, our anonymous patron, Don, Steffi, Jim, and Ben. Appreciate you. And everyone else, thanks for hanging out. Go ahead and rate and review the show and follow us on patreon.com/campkaiju for those additional videos, reviews, merchandise, and more. You can also get in touch with us at campkaiju@gmail.com, campkaijupodcast.com, our Instagram, or you can leave a voicemail in the answering machine zone at 612-470-2612. We're going to talk about something special. A franchise we haven't really covered too much on the show before. Yes, that's right. The Jurassic Park franchise. To help us break it all down is Camp Kaiju's partner in crime, Cinematic Jurassic. the one and only Noah here. Noah, welcome to Camp Kaiju.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to talking about this movie. I'm a huge Jurassic fan and huge just movie and especially monster movie fan in general. So yeah, looking forward to this.
Are you an expert in all things Jurassic Park?
Well, I like to think I am for sure. I have a pretty good knowledge about these movies, both in terms of the in-universe lore and the real life production of these movies. So yeah, it's my favorite franchise, and I've just been a huge fan my whole life. Love dinosaurs in general. So yeah, I definitely say I'm pretty knowledgeable about this franchise and this one in particular.
That's awesome. I love the confidence because I'll tell you, I'm going to say right now, I think you know more than I do. I also love these movies.
Right.
But you and I connected on Instagram almost a year ago, and we went back and forth.
Has it been that long? That's crazy.
It's been that long.
Yeah.
I was going back through our messages. We finally made it happen. And your Instagram page, could you talk more about that?
Yeah, so my Instagram page, it's called Cinematic Jurassic, after my two big passions, which are movies and Jurassic Park in particular. I like how it sort of rhymes. I'm a sucker for rhymes. So yeah, I originally started that back in 2018 during the hype for Fallen Kingdom, because I was partially inspired by Clayton Fioriti, who was really big with his Jurassic Park YouTube channel at that time. Because that was the first time I had seen someone really talk specifically about the Jurassic movies. And it kind of inspired me to want to do my own thing, but I wasn't confident enough to have my voice out there and do YouTube. So I thought, well, I'll do Instagram. And one thing led to another, and it just kind of blew up from there. And yeah, eventually I got to a point where I was comfortable expanding and talking about movies in general, not just Jurassic, but I had gained such a following just from Jurassic stuff specifically that stuff is definitely what gets the most traction on my page still. So yeah, it's a part of my life, both in the social media world and in my personal life. So
that's incredible. We love fandoms here. Obviously, Camp Kaiju. I started Camp Kaiju in 2021, like in February of 21. It did kind of start as a COVID project. I had always loved Godzilla movies and kaiju movies and monster movies. But at that time, I really got into just like binging all these old movies. And I was just thinking, gosh, I need someone to talk to about this. So I started as an Instagram account, and then that eventually became the podcast. And here we are.
Nice.
So I get it.
Nice.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's a great outlet to just share your passions with other people that you may not see in person, but you can connect with. It shows one of the positive sides of social media for sure, that you can connect and share your passion for niche things or things that maybe people in your personal life may not be interested in as much. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking about just a craving to talk to somebody about these movies. I rewatched The Lost World Jurassic Park last night. And that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to dive into the bit of the production history. We're going to talk about all of our favorite parts, maybe some parts that didn't quite work for us, because, we want to be fair-minded, critical thinkers. And before we get into all that, I got to tell you, I watched The Lost World Jurassic Park last night for the first time, honestly, since I was a kid. And that's probably like 20 plus years. It's been a long time. Like, I've forgotten things about it. Also, Noah, on this show, we do have spoilers. So listeners beware. We can't not spoil some of these things.
I mean, it's going to be 30 years old next year. So yeah, if you haven't seen it by now,
Yeah. Yeah, there was just so much I had forgotten. I forgot Vince Vaughn was in the movie.
Yeah.
Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll get back to our personal histories with it in a little bit. But right now, since I have you here, one bit we like to do on Camp Kaiju is we like to look back in time to some monster movie history. And being as it's August, we do have some movies that came out this month in cinema history. So Noah, we'd be honored if you chose one of these movies to shout out, give a little love to the listeners.
Well, I'm a huge Ray Harryhausen fan, and Jason the Argonauts, I think, is his best movie. And, when I think of iconic monster movies, that's one of the first ones that comes to my mind. It's one of the best stop motion movies ever, and I think it's Harryhausen's crowning achievement. Right behind it would be Valley of Gwangi, but I love Jason the Argonauts. So, yeah.
Jason and the Argonauts has the skeleton fight.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I also love Valley of Gwangi. I was going to say top tier dinosaur movie. I would love to get your thoughts on like the genre itself, like and what the genre was before Jurassic Park and what it is now.
Mm-hmm.
Now in Jurassic Park, I have strong opinions that dinosaur movies since Jurassic Park are either A, Jurassic Park sequels, or B, they just want to be Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, that is, I mean, Jurassic Park, it's my favorite movie of all time, if you couldn't guess. It's one of the greatest movies ever made. But its success is a bit bittersweet because it's a double-edged sword. It was so impactful as far as dinosaur movies go that it sort of made like a cover blanket over everything that came after it. Like every single dinosaur movie that came out after Jurassic Park was influenced by it in some way. And that is a good thing and a bad thing because it didn't allow for as much, I feel like, artistic creativity and for dinosaur movies to stand on its own. I feel like we're slowly getting out of that with things like Oak Street and 65. Even though it wasn't a good movie, it definitely didn't feel like Jurassic Park in any way. So,
right.
But I do feel like and things like Primitive War, but even Primitive War with some of its dinosaurs, they look like Jurassic Park ones. So,
yeah,
some movies like Peter Jackson's King Kong, I feel like have been able to stand on their own. But for the most part, 21st century and late 20th century dinosaur movies just can't help but be in the shadow of Jurassic Park. It's kind of like Jaws just influenced every shark movie going forward. Whereas everything before Jurassic Park, you could just go all out. You could have cowboys versus dinosaurs. You could have cavemen living alongside dinosaurs. I mean, you could have dinosaurs on other planets. Like the genre was much more free to brainstorm with crazy ideas, I feel like, before Jurassic Park. So, like I said, that's where the double edge comes in. Like Jurassic Park was great, but it's also kind of, I feel like, staled the genre a bit. But hopefully, with more movies like Primitive War and Oak Street coming out, we're starting to get out of that and having things that aren't Jurassic be able to stand on their own. So
yeah, that is so well said. I love Valley of Gwangi because it blends genres.
Right.
What am I thinking of? Oh, those like 10 million years BC, 10,000 BC,
1 million years BC.
1 million. Man, yeah. Okay. I don't. It's not a math pod. It's a monster movie pod. Yeah, right. Caveman, dinosaurs, classic.
Planet of Dinosaurs, dinosaurs in outer space. That's a great cheesy one.
Yeah. Send me all the recs for recommendations for those kinds of movies.
Oh, I definitely will. Old retro stop motion dinosaur movies where they're so inaccurate and their tails are dragging on the ground. I just love that stuff. And I still would like to see like a big budget Hollywood movie with CGI retro dinosaurs where they've got more claws than necessary and their tails are dragging on the ground. It wouldn't be accurate in any way, but it would be a cool modern throwback to those old retro dinosaur designs.
What about an iguana with a horn taped on it?
That would be great too. If we really want to go back, we can go back to when they first found Iguanodon and thought the horn was on its nose. And
that's right.
Do like a Victorian era. That would be so cool. Like a Victorian era dinosaur movie with lizard-like dinosaurs like the ones at Crystal Palace. That would be cool. Someone needs to make that happen.
You could do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I did like 65 so much, because it wasn't exactly the movie I wanted it to be, except it was. It was dinosaurs outside of the Jurassic, realm. Yeah, I did see that one in the theaters, and I was pleasantly surprised with it. It reminded me of an old B movie that you'd see, I don't know, in the 60s or 70s. Just a quick 90-minute adventure with some dinosaurs.
Yeah, I wish I liked it more, but I just couldn't help but be let down by it. But Primitive War, I thought was awesome, even though some of the dinosaurs did look like Jurassic Parks, but some didn't. And that's sort of the opposite end of the retro one is Primitive War. I feel like they were able to do dinosaurs that were accurate and make them scary because you had like the feathers on the Utah Raptors and things like that. So that was pretty cool. Have you seen Primitive War yet?
Not yet, but
not yet. Okay.
I remember everyone talking about it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That one is awesome. Yeah. Platoon meets Jurassic Park. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, say no more. That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of the end of Oak Street, we've mentioned that. That's just come out. And I remember when the trailer dropped for this, the last thing I was expecting was to see any dinosaurs in this thing. So I am very hyped for this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish that I unspoiled myself because I remember learning about this movie even before the production started when it was called Flowervale Street. And I knew there were going to be dinosaurs in it. So I wish I had been in your shoes and was surprised that there were dinosaurs, but I already knew they were. I was just anticipating them like, all right, let's see them. So yeah, when that first trailer ended and you saw the theropod go across the screen and it would just cut to black and you only saw glimpses of that was so cool. And that already got me hooked. I was already going to see it anyway, but that really made me want to see it. So
yeah, I'm very excited. I hope to see it as soon as possible.
For sure.
So let's go ahead and talk about our personal histories. Let's start with the Lost World Jurassic Park, as that is our focus for this episode.
Well, just to add some context, I am 27. I was born in 98, so unfortunately I missed out on seeing both Jurassic Park and The Lost World in theaters. But at a certain age, I watched Jurassic Park on VHS, fell in love with it, and I really wanted to watch, because I knew there were two more by that point, and I knew I really wanted to watch them. So for those who don't remember, back then we had these things called Blockbuster, and you would go to Blockbuster with your family. And every Blockbuster I went to, whether it was with my grandmother or my parents, I would ask them to find Jurassic Park 2. Because at that point, I didn't even know it was called The Lost World. I just assumed because the third one's called Jurassic Park 3, the second one must be called Jurassic Park 2. So, and for some reason, we could never find it. It didn't matter where we went. We just could not find Jurassic Park 2 on VHS. They would always have Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park 3. So I ended up watching Jurassic Park 3 before Lost World.
Interesting.
And yeah, so it ended up being the last of the original trilogy that I saw. And I'll never forget when I finally did get to see it. My dad got me, this was in 2005. I remember it like it was yesterday. I was 7. It was my birthday. And he got me the Jurassic Park Adventure DVD pack. And it had all 3 movies. Of course, it was the same copies of the collector's editions that came out in 2000. And when I opened it up and I saw on the disc, it said The Lost World Jurassic Park. And that title alone just got my attention. Like, I was expecting Jurassic Park with 2 marks, like Jurassic Park 3, but something about that title, just The Lost World Jurassic Park, just sounds so cool. And immediately it was the first one I put in my new DVD player because we had finally gotten DVD. And I loved it like I did the other 2. But interestingly, for the longest time, it was actually my least favorite of the 3. And the reason why is ironically the reason why it's now my favorite. It was because it was so dark and, tonally and stylistically different than the other 2. Because Jurassic Park 3 kind of goes back to the bright and fun atmosphere of the first one. But 2, The Lost World was so dark and moody and just nastier. And so even though I liked it, it was my least favorite for the longest time. But as the years have gone on, those kind of reasons are why it's now my favorite of all the sequels, including the World movies. So yeah, that's how that was my introduction to The Lost World, was on that DVD set. And I've loved it ever since.
We are speaking the same language.
Yeah.
I'll start at the beginning. For context, I'm 35.
Okay.
So I was born in 91, which means as a kid of the 90s, I grew up with Jurassic Park. I can't tell you the first time I watched it. It was just like,
Hmm.
I always loved it, the first movie. I had all the toys. And I don't remember The Lost World coming out. I would have been 6. But I remember as a kid, so I must have been maybe 7 because it was at the house and my parents were watching it. So they must have rented it. Or maybe it was the late 90s and it was on TV at that point. But either way, I was less than 10 years old. And I remember I wasn't allowed to watch it or it was past my bedtime. But I remember like cutting through the living room quick, to get some water or something and seeing the San Diego sequence. And just like already my imagination was captured because I already loved Jurassic Park. And then I eventually got it on VHS and I gotta show off it's the double
Oh,
VHS
nice.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna
The
have to show
Veloc
you mine later. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Velociraptors are always my favorite,
Hmm.
bar none. And I think I'm getting ahead of myself, but the Velociraptors in the Lost World, I just love that whole sequence. But
Right.
let's see, flash forward a little bit. Jurassic Park 3, I got to see on my 10th birthday in 2001 in the theater. And I remember my exact thought was that was a short movie, even at 10 years old.
Right.
It flies by, but it's kind
Hmm.
of a guilty pleasure for me.
Oh yeah, Jurassic Park 3. It's super fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it had been a very long time since I'd seen The Lost World, Jurassic Park. I watched it last night. And just like you, growing up, it wasn't always my favorite because it's really more serious.
Hmm.
It's really, I think it's scarier than the first one because the mood, like the tone and the lighting, it is darker.
Right.
And Ian Malcolm has some really good one-liners, but there's no Dr. Grant. There's no, I'm trying to think of like Newman or not Newman, Wayne
Dennis
Knight,
Nedry. Yeah.
Dennis Nedry. Yeah. So I think there is arguably less humor in the Lost World Jurassic Park.
Hmm.
So as a kid, I never really gravitated to it. But now as an adult, I agree. I think, yeah, it's, getting ahead of myself. I think it's vastly underrated.
But it has gotten a better reception in recent years since it was released. Definitely, at least amongst the Jurassic fans, I think, for sure. So,
Yeah.
because I just remember everybody hated The Lost World, and I've finally in the past few years started to see people come around and say, it's actually not that bad. Now, granted, that may be because many of the films that came after it arguably were worse and it made it look better in comparison. But I genuinely think that, certain films that may have gotten mixed reception upon release can get better with time. The Star Wars prequels, I don't know if you're a Star Wars fan. I'm a Star Wars fan. Those have gotten a lot better, warmer reception over the years. And I think the same thing is true with Lost World and to a lesser extent, maybe Jurassic Park 3. Yeah.
Well, we can also talk about the Lost World series for a little bit. I saw Lost World and I saw Fallen Kingdom and I did see Dominion in the theaters. And after Dominion, I'm going to be real with you. I said I'm not going to waste my time again because I am not a fan of Dominion for
Neither am
like
I.
technical reasons. Like it's just a really poorly made movie. And I don't have to get too off track. But what's worse than Dominion to me was Rebirth, which I just watched for the first time. And I was like, that was a movie. So all that to say, I suppose, yeah, The Lost World looks really good in comparison. You almost can't compare. It's still a Spielberg film, so it's got that magic to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I totally get that. Dominion is the only film in the franchise that I straight up dislike. I'll find things that I enjoy about the others, even Rebirth. I'm a bit of a Rebirth defender. Like, I acknowledge that it could have been better, but compared to Dominion, I thought it was leagues better. But yeah, I was definitely disappointed with Dominion for sure. And really, the world era in general is something I just rarely ever go back to. I really only watch them if I'm doing a marathon, but the original 3 films, I just feel like I can pop any of those in anytime because they just have that magic, particularly the first 2, because like I said, they're Spielberg movies and that's automatically going to put them above the rest. So,
right. The only other Jurassic Park World movie we've talked about on this podcast has been Dominion when it first came out. So if you're interested, I remember at the time not being a fan, but listeners, if you're all interested in going back to that episode, it was very fresh in our minds.
mm-hmm.
All the locusts. But what about the dinosaurs? Like that was the problem, right?
That's why I defend Rebirth to an extent. For people who say Dominion's better, I'm like, well, at least Rebirth was about dinosaurs.
Yes. I didn't hate Rebirth for, I don't know. I hated Rebirth for a lot of other reasons, but
that's fair. It's definitely not a perfect movie by any means. Like,
it ain't The Lost World.
No, that's for sure.
I have a proposition I'd like to discuss with you. I've chartered an airplane to fly us over Isla Sorna, and we'd like you to be our guide. We'd love to make a contribution to your research here.
It could almost be paradise.
My God, I'd forgotten.
We have a landing strip up
You
ahead.
cannot land on this island.
Oh my God!
But in this forbidden place, where man has tampered with nature,
This is how you make dinosaurs?
This is how you play God.
something unexpected has evolved.
Can you talk to each other?
To a degree we never imagined.
On July 18th,
You probably won't get off this island alive.
it's not just a walk in the park.
They set a trap. They actually set a trap.
Jurassic Park 3.
Stop and listen.
What you are about to see has never been seen before by human eyes.
Gwangi. The Valley of Gwangi. Amazing creatures. The beasts seen for the first time in the life of man. James Franciscus, Gila Godan, Richard Carlson, and Gwangi the Great. The world will never be the same again. The Valley of Gwangi. This picture has been rated G.
Planet of Dinosaurs. 10 times the terror in Technomation. Planet of Dinosaurs. Planet of Dinosaurs. Another world. Beyond infinity. Beyond imagination. Planet of Dinosaurs. 10-ton titans of terror. Clash in a savage struggle for survival. Blazing lasers. Cosmic combat. Lethal lizards. Planet of Dinosaurs. In cosmic color. Rated PG.
Let's talk about some of the crew behind the Lost World Jurassic Park. First and foremost is the man himself, Steven Spielberg. He is returning to this movie after directing the first Jurassic Park, which I don't think anyone really could argue that it's not a masterpiece. I mean,
literally a perfect movie, or as perfect as a movie can get. Yeah.
I could say that about so few movies.
Mm-hmm.
But Jurassic Park is one of those movies. It's
for sure.
Every element is tight. Mm-hmm. So it was a massive success, obviously. And it led to the author of the novel, Michael Crichton, being pressured into penning the sequel novel called The Lost World, which he didn't really want to do, but money's money, and he's like, okay, I'll do it. And Spielberg wasn't a huge fan of directing a sequel himself, but again, he did it, and he and the screenwriter, Spielberg and Koepp, adapted Crichton's novel. They changed a lot of things. I have read the novel. It's just a kind of a different story. It's more scientific, contemplative, and the movie is more action oriented. You do see more dinosaur action, more fast-paced thrills than even in the first one, I'd say. So that was Spielberg, Koepp, and Crichton working together to get this sequel up and running. The music is by John Williams. He does return with a new score, which I do read a lot of praise for. It's maybe more primitive. It adds to that darker sense, that darker tone of the film.
Definitely emphasizes the jungle vibes more with the percussion, especially.
That's what I was going to say. And I noticed it too in the Velociraptor sequence when they go into the long grass and you hear that percussion.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another thing, personal thing. As a grown man, I sometimes have nightmares about dinosaurs on the loose. like I'm in the world of Jurassic Park.
Right.
And it's not fun like me watching these movies. I'm in it and the terror is real.
Mm-hmm.
And after watching The Lost World, I realized, I think this is the movie particularly that still gives me nightmares. Because it's those raptors. It's the T-Rex coming into the camp at night when everyone's asleep. It's scary stuff.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. The last crew member I want to shout out is the cinematographer, Janusz Kaminski, a longtime collaborator of Spielberg's. Kaminski, up until this point at least, had won the Oscar twice in a row for Best Cinematography. Well, not in a row, but Best Cinematography for Schindler's List, which did predate The Lost World, and then Saving Private Ryan, which I believe came out after.
Yes.
Yeah. So he knows what he's doing. He really uses a lot of mist. There's a lot of light streaming through the trees. Shadow work, obviously.
Yeah. Shoots the dinosaurs a lot more backlit and sort of film noir style, which I think helps add to the darker, moodier aesthetic of the film compared to the first one, where Dean Cundey, he just shows the dinosaurs in all their glory. So I like that it's different. There's that nice contrast in the styles and how they present the dinosaurs. I mean, heck, you don't even see the T-Rexes in a day sequence until literally the last shot of the movie. They're always at night in the dark. So,
right. It adds to that menace.
Right.
I think the T-Rexes are scarier in this than they were in the first one. They're doing a lot more.
Right.
And there's two of them.
Yeah. Double the fun.
Oof. It's good. Okay. Do you want to talk about the cast?
Yeah, for sure. So, like in Crichton's novel, the Lost World movie sees the return of Jeff Goldblum as Ian Malcolm. And I actually really like Malcolm's character in The Lost World. I think he's better than a lot of people who criticize this movie give him credit for, because he isn't the same as he is in Jurassic Park. He's a lot more stern, a lot more cynical. He's not cracking as many jokes or being as aloof because of what he experienced in Jurassic Park. And I think that's really good character development. And a lot of people criticize that, and I'm not really entirely sure why, because I like how different he is in this one. And it fits more of the lead protagonist role that he has in this movie. If he was, still as he was in the first film, I don't think he would have been as effective as a lead protagonist for sure. But I love Ian Malcolm's character in this movie. And of course, Jeff Goldblum's fantastic. Ian Malcolm is my favorite Jurassic Park character, and he's great in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also Julianne Moore, who is Sarah Harding, the paleo behaviorist, which is really weird.
Yeah. Like, is that a real thing?
Yeah. I don't know if I'm jumping ahead here, but I really don't like Sarah Harding's character in this movie. That's one of the things I don't like about this movie, especially compared to the novel, because in the novel, Sarah Harding, she's awesome. She's a Laura Croft type of action heroine, doesn't take anything from anybody. But in The Lost World, they kind of combine her and Richard Levine's character, who's the paleontologist in the book. And so she's kind of ditzy, kind of annoying, makes some really stupid decisions. And it just frustrates me because Julianne Moore's a great actress, but I feel like the character of Sarah Harding could have been done better in the movie. And then Pete Postlethwaite, the late great Pete Postlethwaite, is Roland Tembo, one of the greatest actors ever. He plays the big game hunter Roland Tembo, who's going after the male Tyrannosaurus, and he is awesome. Roland is one of my favorite characters in the franchise, has some iconic one-liners, and I like how complex his character is because he's not really a protagonist, but at the same time isn't an antagonist.
Yeah.
Arliss Howard as Peter Ludlow perfectly encapsulates the greedy, slimy businessman that would become a staple going forward, but I still feel like his does it the best. And he's probably actually my favorite of the human antagonists in the franchise because of his motive, which is basically to do Jurassic Park again, but on the mainland this time, which is so insane, but you've got to admire his dedication to it.
Yeah, he's got ambition.
Yeah, he does. And then Vince Vaughn, who we were talking about earlier, he's great as Nick Van Owen. Again, kind of like Roland, you can't really tell if he's a protagonist or an antagonist because his goals are noble. He's, an animal rights activist and he's trying to save the dinosaurs, but he's doing it at the expense of human lives. Like when he takes the bullets out of Roland's gun, and it does kind of make you question, is he a villain or is he a hero? That's something that Jurassic fans still debate over to this day with his character. So, and then there's others like Vanessa Lee Chester as Kelly, Malcolm's daughter, who is probably my least favorite of the kids in these movies. I don't really like her character. Again, kind of like with Julianne Moore, no disrespect to Miss Chester, but I never really cared for her character. I mean, literally the first scene we're introduced to her, she's being really mean to her dad. So not a great way to introduce the kid in your movie. And plus the gymnastics scene. Again, love this movie, but that's something that I'm like, no, I don't like that. Yeah.
Okay, I'll hold that thought. I want to talk to you more about that later.
Yeah. The last and possibly there's a couple more, but Richard Schiff as our dear Eddie Carr, rest in peace. Such an underrated character. Really, in my opinion, the main hero of the movie because he was willing to sacrifice his life to save his friends while T-Rexes were attacking him in that car, and that's just an awesome sequence. And
he wouldn't take his foot off the pedal.
He would not. I mean, that is just true dedication right there. And many people, kind of like with Zara's death in Jurassic World, people make a big fuss that, oh, it's too gruesome and undeserved for that character. And I'm like, but that's what makes his death so great is it shows you that the dinosaurs don't care if you're a good guy or a bad guy. They're going to eat you anyway. And I like that. So I've never gotten that, well, this character doesn't deserve this death criticism, but a character who does deserve what's coming for him is Dieter Stark, played by Peter Stormare.
What a butthead.
Yes. And that sequence with the compies with his character, I mean, that is probably the worst way to go, in my opinion. I mean, raptors are bad, T-Rex is bad, but slowly being pecked alive by compies. But he was just so, I mean, he's always played great villains, but as Dieter Stark, he's just such a slimy mercenary and he's so good at it.
Yeah.
So, and of course, the last one I'll end on because I don't want to go through the whole cast, but Richard Attenborough, the late great Richard Attenborough, coming back for a cameo as John Hammond. That was so great to see.
Yeah.
Because I'm so glad that his character lived at the end of the first one so we could have him back in the second one, even if it was just for that small little cameo at the beginning where he's giving exposition to Malcolm. It was just so great to see him back.
Yeah, definitely. You're talking about the character Roland Tembo. Yeah, the actor playing him is fantastic. But I think that character speaks to how complicated this script is. And it's a sequel, so it already people are coming in thinking it's not going to be as strong as the first one. But and I'm comparing it to the other movies in this franchise. When you compare it to something like Rebirth,
right?
Rebirth is not a complicated movie. The characters are not complicated. In The Lost World, they are. Roland Tembo, he starts off as this big macho game hunter, and you think he's the bad guy. But then you see him like have some warmth, and he goes up to the Julianne Moore character, and he's like, "Hey, are you bleeding?" And you suddenly realize, "Oh, you're kind of a nice guy."
Right.
And then he doesn't kill the Rex. He tranquilizes it. Maybe not by choice, but he ends up doing that. And he loses friends along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And then he goes out. The last time you see him, he said no to the money. He said no to the glory. He's just a changed man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I love that. That complicates the story so much.
Right. In a way, he's really the only character in the movie who goes through an actual arc.
Yes.
Which is kind of crazy when you think, because that is one of the legit criticisms with the movie, is that the character development may not be quite as strong as the first, but Roland is one of the few characters who goes through an actual arc in the movie.
Yeah. And his relationship with Nick Van Owen, the Stephen Vaughn character.
Yeah.
The Vince Vaughn character, sorry.
Nick Van Owen.
Nick Van Owen, played by Vince Vaughn. Thank you. They have a great little relationship where they're like frenemies almost. Like they can kind of respect each other, but they're jabbing at each other. And you're right. When you realize that Van Owen had taken the bullets out of Roland's gun, you just shake your head because you're like, oh man, how many lives did that cost? I mean, it's just, it makes you think.
Yeah. And don't forget, he is also the one who let the dinosaurs out of the cages and caused the damage to all of the hunter team's equipment. So, and probably injured some people there too. So it is something that, as much as I love The Lost World, I do wish they explored more with his character. Is he willing to sacrifice human lives to save the dinosaurs? Because it's there on the surface, but I do wish they would have explored just a little bit more with his character, like they do with Roland's.
Yeah. I couldn't remember if he lived, and he did. He does.
Yeah.
But I thought he was a goner. I don't know.
Right,
I just thought
because
he was gonna die.
they make you think he is when they go into the worker village and they're calling out for his name and he's not answering. You think, oh no, the raptor's gone. That's what I thought the first time I watched it as a kid. So, but I was happy to see that he survived for sure. And I wish, and I would like to see. Frankly, I would like to see his character come back because I love Vince Vaughn as an actor and I like the character of Nick Van Owen. So yeah, it'd be cool to see him come back.
That's such a good point.
Yeah,
because Vince Vaughn is still a star.
Yeah,
I mean, he still shows up in things.
He's still acting. I just saw him in a new movie on Hulu with James Marsden, and he was great in that. So I'd definitely like to see him come back.
Yeah. Oh, what I love about this. So before I mentioned Koepp and Spielberg were working on the screenplay, but David Koepp was taking input from fans, and one kid urged him to maybe get to the dinosaurs a little quicker than in the first movie, which, The Lost World does open. The cold open is with the compies attacking the girl on the beach, which even as a kid frightened me a lot. But then we also get stegosaurs in The Lost World Jurassic Park because they are one of the most popular dinosaurs. And if you think about it, it's kind of surprising they weren't in the first one. So I'm glad they're in the sequel.
Well, that was all due to popular demand, because after the first film came out, Spielberg and crew got thousands of letters from kids and adults saying, gee, I wish you had a Stegosaurus in this movie. So when they were thinking of the cast list for The Lost World, that was like one of the first dinosaurs that Spielberg's like, we got to get a Stegosaurus in this movie because so many people wanted to see it in the first one. So, and that Stegosaurus scene is awesome, and Stegosaurus is like you said, a very iconic dinosaur. So it was cool to see it in the second one. Yeah. But it's funny you talk about the opening of the movie because that's taken from Crichton's original novel, because that's how the first Jurassic Park novel opens, which is interesting. But it was originally going to have a much, in my opinion, cooler opening. But if I'm getting ahead of myself, we can wait
No,
to talk
go for
about
it.
that.
You can have the floor now. Go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, I remember reading this. So I'll just give a little context. So when The Lost World was in production, there were 9 drafts of this script for The Lost World before they finally nailed it down. And in one of the drafts, the opening for the movie was going to be, there was a Japanese fishing boat that was, out fishing, and their net was going to reel in a dead Parasaurolophus, and it was going to have shark bites taken out of it and like crabs all over it. And they're freaking out and they drop it. The water makes a little puddle, and that's how they reveal the title. And I think that would have been such a cool opening for the movie. And then it was going to cut to the boardroom scene with Peter Ludlow. That's one of the famous deleted scenes, and that's how the movie would go off. So as much as I do like the compy scene, it's an iconic scene, that's an opening where I'm like, I wish that had been the movie. And you still see in the movie the Parasaurolophus prop that they were going to use. If you remember in the scene where Ajay and Roland are going to the Rex nest, you see a huge dead Parasaurolophus with chunks taken out. That's the prop they were going to use for that opening in the Japanese fisher. So yeah, it still made it into the movie, just in a different scene. But yeah, that would have been such a cool opening to the film, I think.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are there other elements that maybe didn't make it into the movie or were taken from the book?
Right. So yeah, the film originally was going to incorporate a lot more from Crichton's second novel. There was a draft where there was no Peter Ludlow, and the character, and instead of Ingen being the antagonist, it was going to be Biosyn, which is how it is in the novel with Dotson and his crew going to the island to get dinosaur eggs. But instead of Dotson, there was going to be a character named Jetson, who was a Biosyn mercenary sent to get the eggs. And eventually that character got reworked into Peter Ludlow, and there was going to be a paleontologist character named Dr. Jetson. So it went from Judson to Jetson, and he was going to be killed by the velociraptors in the worker village. But eventually, like I said, they combined his character with Sarah Harding's, and I really feel like that was a mistake. And that's why in the movie, when you see her debating with Robert Burke, who's the paleontologist for the hunters, when they're debating about Tyrannosaurus scent and all, that was originally going to be the Jetson paleontology character. They were going to have several paleontology debates, but anyway. And then I think this is a famous one. The original ending for the film was completely different. There was for a long time, there was no San Diego sequence. The movie was going to end on the island with the raptors in the worker village. Peter Ludlow and Roland Tembo were going to go off on their own. This was all after the Rex attacked them in the waterfall and all that. They were going to go off and still try to get the Rex. And Peter Ludlow gets killed in a similar way that Dotson does in the book, where the male Rex picks him up, takes him back to the nest, drops him, and then the baby eats him, which I think would have been an effective end. And then Roland was going to come back to the village and save them from the raptors by shooting them with his shotgun. And it would just have been so cool. I mean, I still love the San Diego ending if we get to that, but that would have just been such a cool ending, seeing him blast dinosaurs, because for whatever reason, the original trilogy just lacked a lot of shooting dinosaurs with guns for some reason. That's just, there seems to be a lack of that. And that would have been so cool, since that was such a big element in the first novel, when they're shooting raptors with rocket launchers and stuff. And then, of course, it was going to end with them flying off in the helicopters. Pteranodons were going to attack the helicopters. And then about just a few weeks before production began, Spielberg's like, you know what? I really feel like, because the whole motive is getting dinosaurs to the mainland, I feel like it would be a crime if we didn't end with a dinosaur on the mainland. And that's how they changed it to San Diego, which I like. I think that's a great ending too. But all that other stuff sounds so cool as well.
I think there are strengths and pros and cons to all of that. The San Diego sequence gets a lot of flack, and I get it. It does seem like tacked on, people like to say, like it's a different movie. But at the same time, it is also an homage, I think, to Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's The Lost World and that movie where it ends with a dinosaur in the big city.
Right.
So it's not like Spielberg just came up with that. It's part of movie history.
And storytelling wise, it makes sense too, because the whole motive of the bad guys is to get the dinosaurs to the mainland. So from a thematic and storytelling standpoint, I feel like it'd be a bit weird if you didn't follow up with that and deliver on that in some way.
If anything, I feel like it didn't get enough time in and of itself.
Yeah.
I think it feels tacked on because it's the last 20 minutes of the movie and it is a different setup.
Yeah.
You almost want it to tease with that. And then the sequel, Jurassic Park 3, would be about the T-Rex in the real world.
Well, that's what it originally was going to be, because Spielberg, there was a certain point where Spielberg had already planned that the third movie was going to be dinosaurs on the mainland. But I don't know if it was, some people say it was due to Godzilla coming out the next year and he wanted to beat them to the punch. But at some point he decided, you know what, let's just take the whole third movie and make it the third act of the second movie. So that's really what it boiled down to. And I do agree with you that if it had more time to be fleshed out, it would have worked better. But I've always, my opinion's always been the reason that gets so much criticism is due to the tonal shift with it. Because as we've said before, the first two acts of the film are very dark, very serious. It's a suspense thriller. But the third act, when we get to San Diego, even though I do enjoy it, it is tonally kind of different. It's a lot more tongue-in-cheek Godzilla jokes and things like that. It's kind of played more for laughs. And tonally, it does feel different than the previous two acts. So I think it has more to do with the tone of it rather than the setting of it.
That's so accurate. I mean, I laughed a lot. There's the biggest laugh for me in the San Diego sequence. It's when Malcolm and Harding are at the gas station.
Yeah.
And big orange
the 76
ball
just rolls. That's so funny. Yeah. And there was, going back to what I was saying earlier about the previous drafts, there was a draft of it that was going to be more serious, with Sarah taking the baby back to her house with Kelly and Nick. They were going to be part of that because, in the final act, they're not there. So
right. Which I think is also why it feels so different. Where did they go? Yeah.
Right. So, and the T-Rex was going to burst through the window and try to attack them. And it's going to be serious and suspenseful like the first two acts were. And I think that if they had played it a bit more serious, people probably wouldn't have been as opposed to it. But I still love it regardless, even though, like I said, it is a bit silly with the jokes, like the Japanese tourists running and they're shouting, "I left Japan to get away from this." And it gets to a point where like, okay, Steven, we get it. You're making a Godzilla movie. Like we get it. Like
I know.
Or when the bus goes into the Blockbuster and you see all the self-referential in universe. It's just silly, but it is fun. And canonically, this is where I do defend it. Canonically, as far as the in-universe canon goes, it is arguably the most important scene in the movie. Because remember, in the canon up until that point, nobody knew about InGen or Jurassic Park. Nobody knew that InGen was cloning dinosaurs on a secret island because that all had been buried under the rug. So
good point.
So in a way, as far as the in-universe canon goes, the San Diego sequence is important because that's what where the world realized, oh my gosh, InGen was cloning dinosaurs and Ian Malcolm was telling the truth. Because remember, at the beginning of the film, he lost his tenure. He was declared a nut job by Peter Ludlow for selling wild stories. So
that's right.
It kind of validated his character. So
see,
it is an important scene. Yeah,
it's an important scene. It's a good script because it ties all these things together.
Right.
Malcolm's like, hey, you better believe me now.
Yeah,
I love that. So yeah, I think, like you, that it's an important scene. The scene itself, like the idea works, but maybe the tone was off,
right?
Not executed, maybe the way we would have wanted it to. But all the same. So the film was shot for about $75 million, which seems so low by today's standards, and it shot on location at several different places. Hawaii, there was the Redwood Forest National Parks, state parks in California and Oregon. Yeah. The film utilizes animatronics and CGI. The animatronics, I believe, are by Stan Winston and his company.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and the CGI is Industrial Light and Magic. But the animatronics in this movie, they build on what was achieved and already groundbreaking in the first one, right? It just builds on that success. The T-Rex, the Tyrannosaur heads are massive. And you know they're robotic. They're or not, maybe not robotic, but they're animatronic. But they can move so well. I read that in the trailer sequence when the T-Rexes attack the trailer, the team used the animatronic heads to bash into the trailer. So you're seeing real kinetic force there, which we don't have to bash CGI, but you don't get that level of realism with CGI.
Mm-mm.
And I think there's something to that kind of realism in creating that magic, that movie magic, the believability of the world.
Yeah, the animatronics in that film are still magnificent to this day. Like seeing the two T-Rex heads peering into the trailer. I mean, they look like real T-Rexes. And what's really cool about those T-Rexes is, and this is something that the production designer Rick Carter likes to jokingly say, is they didn't go to the sets came to them. So they both of those T-Rexes, the male and the female, they basically stayed on these dolly tracks, and the crew would build every set involving the animatronic T-Rexes around them. So they never left. They just changed the set. So every set you see the male T-Rex in, whether it's attacking Eddie, attacking the trailers, attacking Ludlow at the end of the film, he's just staying in the same spot. They just changed the set the whole time, which is really cool when you think about it. So, and the baby T-Rex is a work of magic. And there were actually, I think there were 2 or 3 different versions, because there's the one that Nick and Sarah work on in the trailer, and that one's like buried into the table it's sitting on, because it's got these big hydraulic pumps in it. But the truly remarkable one for me is the one that Nick's character holds, because it's all remote controlled. Like there's no cables or wires sticking out of it. It's all RC, and it just looks so convincing. I mean, Spielberg even said to Stan, you build all these huge dinosaurs, but that little T-Rex, that's your miracle. Like that thing is so real, and it's so convincing. I mean, just to be able to pick up one of them really adds to the believability of it, I think.
Yeah, and it looks like the skin looks real. It's got a shine to it. Like it looks like leathery skin. It looks great. Yeah. When Nick Van Owen goes to release the dinosaurs from their cages, they're all practical effects. You know, you're seeing like a real Triceratops. And I love the Pachycephalosaurus in this movie.
That is a cool one for sure.
That's a great brought to life with CGI and the animatronics.
One of the most heartbreaking scenes in the movie is when you see them capture the Pachy, and it's the animatronic one, and you see the trailer cushions come in and squish. I mean, that's heartbreaking. And I think the fact that it's a real animatronic Pachy just makes it even more believable. So, and also something else I really like about the dinosaurs in that movie is the different color patterns they gave the dinosaurs in the movie. Like, because this time we're dealing with males and females. So I thought it was so cool that they gave the male and female variants of the raptors different skin colorations to differentiate them. Like that green male T-Rex and those tiger striped male velociraptors have become so iconic, just as iconic as their female variants.
Right. People were the male T-Rex in this is nicknamed Buck.
Yes. And he's my favorite. If I was going to have a favorite individual dinosaur in the franchise, he's probably my favorite. I think that Buck T-Rex is so cool.
People in the fandom do love to talk about the different T-Rexes, and Buck is always there at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I get that. The CGI, though, I think is actually really good, especially considering the mid 90s. I think it's very convincing.
Yeah, it still holds up nearly 30 years later. Still, just like the first film, still in a ways a lot better than CGI today, which is just mind-boggling to think about. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it still holds up incredibly well, on par with the first film CGI, if not a little bit better. I think as far as the CGI goes, yeah.
They're doing more intricate things.
Yeah, they were able to make them just look more convincing and breathe more convincingly, and you see them being able to make their skin and muscle jiggle when they stomp the ground. They were just able to gain so much confidence from what they did on the first film. And I think David Koepp said it best. He was like, "All right, we proved with the first film that we can do CGI dinosaurs, so now we got to take it to the next level and go from." Yeah, you can do dinosaurs, but what can you do with them? That's the next step.
I think they show that. The first thing that comes to my mind is Malcolm. He's kind of in a standoff with the raptor in that shed, and he holds up a door, and the raptor jumps at the door. But that's CGI,
right?
And he's interacting with it. I mean, so I guess whether or not it's practical or if it's CGI done right. Where a moment like that becomes believable is when the actor physically connects with it.
Yes.
And somehow they pull that trick off with the CGI.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I have been into dinosaurs a lot recently with covering The Lost World and revisiting these Jurassic Park movies. But man, there's just something about dinosaurs that rocks.
I don't even know how to explain it because, like I said, I've loved dinosaurs my whole life, and people ask me to this day, "Why do you love dinosaurs so much?" And I was like, I really can't explain it. I don't know if you've ever seen the making of Jurassic Park, but there is a quote that Spielberg says in there that I think just perfectly encapsulates why dinosaurs are so awe-inspiring. And he said, "They don't exist today, and unlike something like that went extinct recently, like a mammoth or a saber tooth, we have big cats and elephants that we can look at to compare them to. But with dinosaurs, there's really nothing, even though there are birds, but as far as non-avian dinosaurs go, there's nothing to really in the present day to compare them to. And because of that, because there's nothing to compare, they kind of blur the line between mythology and reality, because they did exist, but they have this essence of mythology to them. And I think that's what makes them so fascinating. Just the fact that these things that look mythological, like you can't even believe that they existed, but you know they did, that they walked the same ground that you and I are on, that just makes them fascinating. I think that the aura of mystery surrounding them, plus they just frankly look cool as well.
They look cool, but you're right. Thinking about it in that way, I love that blurring of mythology, but reality too.
Right.
Yeah, you think about it, it's mind blowing. And we have like a science museum in town. I don't get to it often, but they're like right in the big atrium of the museum. There is, I think it's a T-Rex. It might be an Allosaurus. I don't know. But, the structural skeleton, I just stand there. I'm like, God dang, look at this thing.
Yeah, like that thing was alive at one point. Like you just got to remind yourself. And I think that's just what's so awe-inspiring about it. And plus, for me personally, it goes even deeper. As someone who's been on fossil excavations as a volunteer, knowing that you dig up a fossil and you're the first person in history to find and touch that fossil, even if it's just like a little tooth or piece of a hip bone, knowing that you're the first human to touch something that existed millions and millions of years ago, it's a remarkable feeling for sure.
Can I ask where, how, what, like?
Well, I live in Texas, and so Northeast Texas, and so I tend to go on a lot of fossil collecting trips near the Texas-Oklahoma border, near the Red River, and you can find a lot of fossils out there. They're mostly going to be things like shells and mosasaurs and shark teeth. Very rarely will you find dinosaurs, but still, you get that same feeling when you're just holding a fossil that existed way before your time. It's a really, really cool feeling for sure.
When I was a kid, I was obsessed with not just dinosaurs, but paleontology.
Right.
And I never became a paleontologist, but it was one of those dream jobs as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being fascinated by there's a Hell's Creek.
Hell Creek in Montana.
Yeah. In Montana. Yeah. And the sites in Alberta and that whole part of the continent, really.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm like really back into dinosaurs again, I'm like, that's a 10-hour drive, 8-hour drive. I can get out there.
Yeah. I always try to volunteer for excavations during the summer because they're always needing volunteers.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, it's a great experience for sure. It's something cool to do over the summer. And I'm someone who still that is my dream job, is to be a paleontologist and be a museum curator for paleontology. So it's a great way to make connections if you're wanting to go into that field for sure.
Yeah. Man, that's good stuff. Well, yeah, we'll talk about the movie again in a little bit, but you'll appreciate this. I grew up in Orlando, actually, at Universal.
Okay.
And I went to Universal Studios all the time.
Oh, I'm so jealous. I've still never been to the Orlando park. I've been to the California one, but and I'm the only one in my family that has not been to Orlando one. And they know how much I love Jurassic Park and really Universal in general. They're my favorite film company. So I'm extremely jealous that I still have not been to. That's on my bucket list, though, is to go to the Orlando park. Yeah.
So you know what? You dig up your fossils at the Red River. I'm going to be in Orlando digging up fossils at Universal Studios.
That's awesome.
But it's really cool. Like they recreate the visitor center from the first movie, and you can go in, and it's for little kids, but we're all little kids at heart, and you can like brush dirt off of dinosaur eggs, and they have the recreation of babies hatching from the eggs.
That is cool.
Yeah. The main attraction ride, I mean, I haven't been in a long time, but it's the Jurassic Park River Adventure. Man, when I was a kid, that, because you're on this like river cruise, and then you go up a tower, and you're in the dark, and right at the top of the tower, unbeknownst to you, you're at the precipice of a waterfall, but you don't know that. And the giant T-Rex comes out, and right when you think you're going to get eaten, you plunge down this waterfall in your raft. So it's like one of those water rides. Intense.
It is. Like I said, I've been on the one at California before they changed it to Jurassic World, which I hated. But yeah, I was lucky enough to go on it when it was still Jurassic Park, and it was just awesome. And I'm not even someone who necessarily likes roller coasters or big drops.
No, me neither. Yeah.
But I knew I had to do that one.
I did it so many times. At one point I said, I don't need to do this again because I'm not a roller coaster person.
Fun fact, when that one first opened, the California one, Spielberg was there for the opening of it, and he rode it all the way till they got to the top, and then they let him off because he doesn't like drops. So he went all the way to the top and then was like, nope, I'm done. So and then the rest of the cast and crew stayed on. So
if I could do that, I'd ride the first part all the time.
Right.
Once again, this episode is brought to you by the Video Store Minneapolis, a volunteer-run nonprofit with a mission to preserve physical copies of every movie and TV series they can find, create a library of those titles, and make that library available to the people in their community. In the before times, we knew such places as video stores. Well, it's time to make one real again. The Video Store Minneapolis' 30-day Kickstarter is live till the end of the month. The goal is a brick-and-mortar space, so give if you can. Go to thevideostorempls.org for more, or again, hit the link in the show notes. All right, Minya's Mailbox. We have some fun ones. We have some good ones in response to the recent season announcement for the latter half of Season 6 here, all the way till December. We got a lot of love. We got a lot of support from folks, so I just wanted to shout you out a little bit. Let's see. On Instagram, I want to shout out Naomi Osborne on Hey Film Friends. She gives us 3 fire emojis. Thank you, Naomi. We have Big Texas Butters on Instagram, still one of the coolest names out there. Anyways, Big Texas Butters says, banger after banger came for the Godzilla, but OMG, Last Man on Earth is looking like my favorite upcoming episode. Big Texas Butters, we love The Last Man on Earth, some classic Vincent Price. So listeners out there, get ready for that episode in October with a lot of related I Am Legend talk. Indeed. Then it's.tn.g on Instagram says, glad to see Dragonslayer made the cut. That film deserves more love. It's.tn.g, we couldn't agree more. Some classic 80s fantasy for you. And we have one more comment from Big Donnie Mac. Thank you, Don. You had some great things to say about our recent G-Fest panels. You said, the G-Fest panel was awesome, very interesting and informative. Thanks for including the review of Godzilla King of the Monsters from the, quote, early days of Camp Kaiju. Appreciate that. What I've actually done is I've sort of remastered some of those early vintage episodes of Camp Kaiju. So listeners, if you go back way, way back in the catalog, this is the sound quality superb? Maybe not. Is it listenable? Absolutely. And there's still some great content in there with Matt, with me flying solo. I don't know. Check it out and let us know what you think. So thank you, Don. Thank you, Naomi. Big Texas Butters. It's.tn.g. And Jim, you had some great support on the Patreon as well. So appreciate y'all. Hope you're enjoying the Jurassic Park world. Let us know what you think of this episode and or that whole franchise and or this particular movie. Or what dinosaur movies do you want us to cover? Let's do it. Let's take the requests right here, right now. Is it some classic B movie from yesteryear, or is it something like The End of Oak Street? There are so many we have yet to cover, so let us know far and wide, what dinosaur movies would you like to see covered on Camp Kaiju? All right, sounds good, y'all. Thank you again. Keep them coming. And without further ado, we'll get back to the show.
Alive after 70 million years. Dinosaurs! Roaring, walking, destroying. Dinosaurus! The most amazing adventure since the beginning of time. Dinosaurus! For these people, there could only be shock and dismay. For who among them could believe that out of the primordial slime had come these creatures? The huge Brontosaurus, the ferocious Tyrannosaurus, even a primitive caveman. Panic-stricken, horrified, did they have the courage, the ingenuity to survive?
How do we get word out, Hacker? Mailboat will be in tomorrow morning. By tomorrow, we could all be dead.
We are going to be friends, you and me.
Sights never before seen on the screen. A 60-ton dinosaur tamed by a small boy and a caveman. A caveman loose in a modern home. The death duel of the dinosaurs. A girl caught by the dread Tyrannosaurus. The battle between giant monster and monster machine. The moat of fire.
It's holding him. Yeah, but for how long?
All right, back to the Lost World Jurassic Park. This movie opened in May of 1997. It broke box office records, so many records, I didn't even bother typing them all up in the notes, but highest opening weekend, I think, until Harry Potter came out 4 or 5 years later, all that kind of stuff. A total gross of $618 million, Remember, that's off of a $75 million budget, so a big success, although it did not make as much money as the first one, but that's kind of what happens with sequels. The critical reception was mixed, also maybe just because that's what happens with sequels. There was a large praise, though, for those special effects we've talked about. And as we've also talked about, general criticism of some thin character development, contrived, human aspects. Spielberg himself, I found this surprising. He's not even this movie's biggest fan. Here's a quote from him. He said, quote, "I beat myself up, growing more and more impatient with myself. It made me wistful about doing a talking picture because sometimes I got the feeling I was just making this big silent roar movie." He says, "I found myself saying, is that all there is? It's not enough for me." Maybe you could speak to this more. I don't know. But I did read, Spielberg, like his heart wasn't in it. Maybe he was going through some personal stuff.
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, it doesn't really surprise me. A lot of directors, I think, are critical of their work. And I know Spielberg has been critical of a lot of his work. But when it comes to this film, I don't really know where the mood changed, because he was very enthusiastic about doing a sequel to Jurassic Park after the first one, because he enjoyed making it so much, the first one so much. And like you said at the beginning, he was one of the people pressuring Crichton to make a sequel book just so he could make a sequel movie. So it's one of those things where I wish I was there as a crew member so I could see where the change happened and where Spielberg just lost the passion for it. But it's also one of those things where I can say you don't always have to agree with the people you admire. And this is a case where if I saw him, I would say, Mr. Spielberg, I have to respectfully disagree with you, man. I think you're being a little bit too hard on yourself. I think you made an awesome sequel. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was still a great sequel. So, but I do, if I'm putting myself in his shoes, I do kind of see where he's coming from. I think that he feels like, I don't know, because I don't want to speak for him. That's what the hard thing is. So, but I definitely feel like you can just imagine maybe like during the San Diego sequence, something just hits him like, I'm just making a big monster movie. Even though that's what he wanted, maybe he had second guesses and decide, I don't know. But I do know that after he made Schindler's List, he even said that he felt like he was a different director, that the awe-inspiring, childlike Spielberg we got with things like E.T. and Indiana Jones and Jurassic Park, that was kind of gone. And I think that is kind of reflective in Lost World, and why it's so moody and darker is because Schindler's List really did change him. If you listen to him talk about it, like there's Spielberg pre-Schindler's List and post-Schindler's List. And I think that that's why he was trying to capture that awe and wonder Spielberg again, and he just couldn't. So, but yeah, it's one of those things where I think he's being a bit too hard on himself as someone who likes the movie and defends it. So, but yeah, it is a shame to know that he doesn't like it as much as we do. But again, like I said, you don't have to always agree with the opinions of the people who make the stuff that you like. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and it's still a Spielberg movie, and he's not a hack. Like, he makes good movies, even if they're not always maybe the best movie. It's still better than a lot of other movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that as far as just the general reception goes, of course, I wasn't there. Like I said, I was born the year after this came out. So you would probably know better than I do, but I have gone back and read what people in 97 talked about when this movie came out. And it seems to me that the impression I got, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but I think people really went into this movie expecting a literal Jurassic Park 2, if you know what I mean. Something more akin to Jurassic World. When that came out, people liked that movie. In fact, a lot of people who didn't like Lost World did like that movie. And I think that is kind of what people were expecting with the Lost World, was a literal Jurassic Park 2, where it's still got that childlike sense of awe and wonder. It's bright. We're at a theme park. And Lost World wasn't that. It took it in a very drastic different direction, both story wise and tone wise. And I think that kind of threw people off a little bit in 97 because remember, this was only the second movie. There wasn't a whole slew of 6, 7 sequels to compare it to. So all you really had was this film and the first one. So I that's all they could really go by. And I think that's why audiences were a little bit let down. Plus, I think it didn't help that it was a sequel to, at that time, the biggest movie ever, like the highest grossing movie ever made. So that put a lot of pressure on it too. And I think that certainly put a lot of pressure on Spielberg too, and maybe why he was dissatisfied with it, because he felt pressured to make a bigger, better sequel.
Which was never going to happen.
Right.
But considering that, I mean, I think he still did a pretty good job. And I think what people may criticize, the tonal differences, I think is ultimately why I like this movie, because it's not just a rehash. It does something different. And I personally always appreciate that in sequels, especially. Well, I'm thinking about like Temple of Doom, which also gets flack. But I'm like, yeah, but what it does do, it does it well.
Right. And like Lost World, it was a darker movie. It wasn't as kid friendly.
Yeah.
Another one I go to is Empire Strikes Back, was a darker movie than Star Wars was. And that sort of set the standard for sequels always do have to be darker than the first one. So
there you go.
That just seems to sort of be a thing. And I think movies like Temple of Doom and Lost World just carried on that tradition where the second film, for whatever reason, is always a bit darker and a bit harder edge than the first one. Yeah.
Which I like. I don't mind that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad it doesn't feel like the first one, because then I really would get the impression that it was just trying to recapture the magic of the first one, which wasn't going to happen. And I think that's one reason why the movie has gotten a bit of a reprisal and people are looking at it in a better light, because it did do something different. Even if Spielberg himself wasn't satisfied with it, we as fans appreciate it for that.
Yeah. It stands out amongst all these sequels, and
for sure,
for good or bad reasons. Everyone does have opinions about this movie. It's kind of a
for sure. I mean,
lightning rod.
There are still fans, and I'm not going to name names. I do respect them, but there are still some fans that have this movie near the bottom of their ranking. I'll never understand that, but that's their opinion. So
yeah, that's their, and everyone's entitled to it. It's okay. 'Cause if you're not into that tone, if that doesn't resonate with you, that's okay.
Right.
This movie will land differently for you too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what are some of your favorite standout parts of the Lost World Jurassic Park?
Oh man, definitely the trailer attack sequence. Like, that's one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. From them going over the cliff all the way to Eddie's heroic death, that whole sequence is just so intense and so awesome. The dinosaur roundup sequence, that's awesome, where they're rounding up the herbivores. Dieter Stark getting attacked by the compies. As you said before, your favorite scene, the long grass sequence with the velociraptors. That is a great sequence, as well as the attack in the workers' village, minus the gymnastics scene. And then, of course, again, it is goofy and campy, and I do wish it was played a bit more seriously, but I do genuinely like the ending in San Diego, both from a storytelling standpoint and just from a pure entertainment standpoint. I mean, it's a T-Rex rampaging through a city. Like, that's awesome. So
yeah,
those were definitely, and then there are also some of the quieter character moments I really like as well. Like you mentioned earlier, the scene between Nick Van Owen and Roland Tembo. That's a great little sequence. I love the exposition scene with Ian and Hammond. I think that's a great sequence. So yeah, those would definitely be some of my favorite moments from the film for sure.
Yeah, I'm right there with you on all those. I think Spielberg, he's so good at staging a scene.
Yeah.
He's so good at placing the camera and the actors and the sets and the props. Everywhere is placed just so methodically and intentionally, and he crafts tension so well. Like, I was surprised. I felt so tense watching this movie. It's nearly 30 years old. I've seen it before. I've seen Jurassic Park movies before. And yet the trailer scene when it's all about to go down and Malcolm, does he hear the rumble of the T-Rex?
Well, when he says, "Hang on, this is going to be bad," and then it just topples over. Yeah,
there's that, but the buildup, he knows it's coming.
Oh, when he says, "Mommy's very angry."
Yep.
Yeah,
and then his daughter and Schiff are in the high hide, which I love as a concept. I actually wanted more high hide.
Yes, because that played a big part in the novel.
Yeah, and you see the trees moving under them.
That's so cool. And you hear the roar and they're just reacting. I mean, that is such an awesome sequence. Yeah.
And then again, even more so, because like I like to camp, and I have been camping, sleeping in a tent in the middle of the night, and you hear a rustling and you just freak out because you're like, what is out there? So when Harding and Kelly are sleeping in the tent and you hear the boom, boom, and her eyes Julianne Moore's eyes open and she's like a crab. Like she knows what's coming. And you just know you can't run. You have to brace yourself. And the tension is so real in that scene. And she's slowly like hiding her snacks, but she's got blood on her jacket, which she can't get rid of. And it just escalates and all hell breaks loose.
Yeah, that's a great sequence. And what's funny about that is they weren't even laying down. Like they were just standing up and they had these bags behind them. So the T-Rex was literally just peering over their head while they're standing. Right. Yeah. So it looks like they're sleeping, but they're really just standing. And it's pretty cool. So
yeah. And that one guy, he wakes up and he starts screaming. And you're like, no, don't stay still.
Carter, yeah, he's the same one that gets stomped when the female T-Rex is chasing them. Yeah, that's the great sequence too when she steps on him and you see his body like still attached and he just goes into the mud. That's a great sequence.
As a kid, like that image always stood like lodged itself in my imagination. Like, oh man, that guy was stepped on by a T-Rex.
Yeah.
The waterfall scene always stuck with me as a kid. Like that poor guy, he gets a snake down his shirt.
Yeah.
Like, God.
That's another fun sequence because the character Robert Burke, who's the paleontologist in that who gets snapped, he was based on a real life paleontologist named Robert Bacher. And that's why they have such similar names. And the reason he's based on him is because Jack Horner, who was the paleontology consultant for the Lost World, he at the time, and I still don't know why he did this, but for whatever reason, he was trying to be a bit of a contrarian and say that T-Rex was only a scavenger. And him and Bacher had a really passionate, heated debate for years about that because Bacher, just like 99% of people on the planet, acknowledge no, T-Rex was just as much of a predator as it was a scavenger. And so Horner convinced Spielberg to base Burke's character off Bacher with the cowboy hat and the long beard, which Bacher has in real life, if you ever see a picture of him, and have him get eaten by the T-Rex because he just disliked him so much. And Bacher, when he saw the film and he saw that sequence, he recognized himself in the Burke character. And when he saw Burke get eaten in the waterfall, he literally called Horner and said, "See, I told you T-Rex was a predator." So yeah, it seems like he got the last laugh in the end. He was able to laugh at it for sure.
That's awesome.
In good faith. So
yeah, thanks for bringing up the real life paleontologist.
Yeah. If you ever look him up, he looks exactly like Burke's character in the movie. He's a very eccentric fellow, but a cool paleontologist for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
So we gotta talk. We gotta be objective here. You know.
Yeah.
Tell me about the gymnastics scene.
Yes, I will say, as much as I do love this movie, there are some things I do not like about it. And one of them is the gymnastics scene. It is so stupid and so dumb. And I know it only lasts for less than a minute, but I still think it's stupid with, the raptor just turning around and looking at her like, "Duh," and
Yeah.
and it's really sad when you realize canonically Kelly is the first person we actually see kill a dinosaur in this franchise, which is really stupid when you think about it. Like, I just think that's dumb. And and then of course Malcolm's line at the end, the school cut you from the team. That's so stupid. And Kep even told Spielberg, Steven, that's really stupid. And this is one thing where I would have pushed back on Steven, like, Steven, that is so stupid. And he's like, no, people will like it. And you were there. I don't know. I don't know if people were.
I was 6 years old, man.
That's right. That's right. So I don't know if people were cheering in the theater when that happened, but I thought it was dumb. And other things I don't like, I said this before, I do think that Sarah Harding's character isn't done as well in the film version as she is in the book.
Mm-hmm.
She's really ditzy, kind of annoying if I'm being honest. And again, this is no disrespect to Julianne Moore. I love her. I think she's a great actress.
Mm-hmm.
She's great in a lot of things I've seen, but her character in this movie I just think is dumb and annoying, and it really contradicts her intelligence and knowledge that she supposedly has. She keeps the bloody jacket when she literally told Burke Tyrannosaurus has the strongest sense of smell of any animal. Like, why? Like, why do you still have it with you? Like, that's so stupid. Like, so she just makes some, and then when she's touching the baby Stegosaurus, yes, it's a beautiful scene and the animatronic looks wonderful, but then she gets mad at Van Owen later when he's trying to smoke and she says, don't like that. We're not supposed to interact with the environment. You literally just did that. Like, it just, I don't know. It's really, her character's just really dumb. And there are a lot of moments in the film, even though I love it, that I do admit that some of the dinosaur action is a bit contrived in its execution. In the first film, I feel like every time there was a dinosaur attack sequence, it felt natural. But in the second one, there are moments where it does feel a bit contrived, like with the bloody jacket. Things like that, where them not answering the phone in the trailer, even though it's literally right there. So it does feel a bit contrived when compared to the first film.
That's all fair. And I'll tell you, my example for that is when Dieter goes to the bathroom in the woods.
Yes.
Why? And this isn't the only movie that does this, but it's so cliche. Like, why are you going a mile away from the camp?
Yeah. And it doesn't take away from how cool the sequence is in and of itself. It's just the execution of how we get to that scene that could have been better.
Again, you go camping, you gotta go. If you gotta go, you gotta go, right? You just go around a tree and you just do it. You don't walk a mile away.
Yeah. And then, of course, there are things like, again, I mentioned earlier, I do wish the tone of the San Diego sequence had been a bit better, a bit more in line with what we saw before, and maybe a bit fleshed out. Maybe some of the character development could have been a bit stronger. Like I said, I do wish, because on the surface level, it's really good, but I do wish that I've said this before, I do wish we got a bit more insight into Nick Van Owen and how complicated he is as far as the ramifications for the things he did, because he never really faces any consequences for putting lives in danger at the expense of saving the dinosaurs. I do wish we got a little bit of a better resolution for Malcolm, with him being validated, for him being right about dinosaurs being alive. And so little things like that I wish had been fleshed out better as well, because it does seem like, compared to the first film, this one, for better or worse, even though depending on how you look at it, this one does take the action over character more than the first one, or takes the action is more of the focus than the character.
Yeah, I think largely it's able to balance those needs for character and action, but there are certain moments that stand out when you think about it. I'll agree with you, like Sarah Harding, she's kind of like as a character, not Julianne Moore. I think she's doing really good work. But as she's written, it's like, is she a competent scientist adventurer, or is she a damsel in distress? Because
it's like the film can't make up its mind.
Exactly. It tries to have it both ways.
Yeah.
And when she's more of the damsel in distress, like you said, it undercuts her authority. It undercuts her intelligence. Like, this character knows what she should know.
She's supposed to be like very smart. She's a paleontologist and an animal behaviorist, and yet
she says she works with predators.
Yeah, and yet she does things that go against what she's supposed to know. Like, it's just, and that's why I was emphasizing earlier. I think it would have been better if they had separated the Jetson character, who was supposed to be the paleontologist, and Sarah Harding, the animal behaviorist, rather than trying to combine them and make her more like the competent action heroine that she was in the book. Because, like I said, if you read the book, she's awesome in that book. She's awesome. She's like driving a motorcycle away from raptors, and it's awesome. So
that's cool. I'm not super bothered by the gymnastics scene. Because I don't know. I heard all the discourse about it, and I thought it was going to be longer than it was. Actually, it's pretty short.
Right.
But I do think it does, in a movie as serious as The Lost World, when you have a moment like that, it does land awkwardly, because you're
it's kind of like the tongue-in-cheek jokes in the San Diego sequence. It kind of clashes with the tone that the majority of the film is going for, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
What else was I going to say about something about the raptors? Oh, it's an action movie thing. It's a Jurassic Park thing. Like, these raptors are killing everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But Malcolm's now confronting them, and they can't kill him, right? And they're taking their sweet time. They're just going to look at
armor.
Yeah, plot armor. You're like, okay.
They're huge fans of Jeff Goldblum. That's why they're like, oh my gosh, it's Jeff Goldblum. Like, I'm such a big fan.
And now I'm just nitpicking, but like how Julianne Moore, Dr. Harding, ends up getting away from the raptors. Those two raptors start fighting with each other, and then she's able to roll out.
Yeah, that was another, again, just contrived and convenient plot armor that it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. So, there are some contrivances for sure. But let's talk about any campy moments, any moments of humor. And we've talked about, obviously, there's lots in the San Diego sequence.
For sure.
Dr. Malcolm has some pretty great one-liners that I think, to Goldblum's credit, he can deliver those lines really well and pull them off.
Yes, he manages to say these funny lines, but in such a serious way. And I think that's a testament to how good he is in this movie. Because, like I said, he's a lot better than I think people give him credit for in this movie. And his character and what he says is a lot better and more intriguing than I think people give it credit for.
Yeah. There's one exchange of dialogue that made me laugh out loud. When he and Nick Van Owen are looking for Sarah, and they're yelling, "Sarah, Sarah!"
Yeah.
And Van Owen says, "Sarah Harding." And Goldblum goes, "Well, how many Sarahs do you think are on this island?"
That's a great one. One of my favorites is when he's wanting to get off the island with Kelly, and Sarah's telling them what their mission is, and he's like, he's just already assuming they're all gonna die, and he's like, "Nick, if you want me to write a letter to your wife, I'd be happy to." And then he goes to Eddie. It's like, "Eddie, any personal effects that you have, like, at least I could do." That's just hilarious to me.
And he's telling Kelly to stay he's telling Kelly to leave the trailer because he's got to have a talk with Sarah. But then as soon as Kelly leaves the trailer, he says, No, where are you going? Where are you going? You stay in here. It's safe in here.
Right. There are some genuinely funny lines in that movie that don't clash with the tone of it like some of the sequences do, I think.
Right. Yeah. And I think I'm a writer myself, particularly a playwright. So I can appreciate I like in Kep's dialogue, like some of these lines in the in the hands of a lesser actor would be very cheesy. But the actors, they know how to deliver a cheesy line in a way that feels organic and real.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I was just going to say one last thing about this movie. The score, I think we talked about earlier, but John Williams' score, I had to mention it one more time. It's amazing. And I would argue it is just as good, if not better, than the score for Jurassic Park, because it is a lot more musically complex. And again, it fits the darker tone. I love the percussion in it. I just think I couldn't praise the score enough. I literally have the album of the soundtrack, and I play it in my car all the time because it's just so cool. So cool.
Very cool.
So, yeah, I just had to mention the score one more time.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The Lost World theme, like the actual main theme, to me, I associate that with Jurassic Park, the franchise, just as much as I do the main theme for the first movie. Like that Lost World main theme is just entrenched in my music mind.
Yeah. I gotta give it a good listen. Admittedly, I haven't done that yet, but I did notice it in the movie itself. We're gonna give this movie a rating. You know, obviously, it sounds like you like this movie, but considering everything we've talked about, where would you land? Is it a timeless classic? It's perfect. It stands the test of time, or there may be some antiquated moments, right? Overall, it's great. And it does stand the test of time for that. Mm-hmm. Or our lower rankings, it doesn't stand the test of time, but it's just fun, or it's not worth revisiting at all. It does not stand the test of time.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, I do love this movie, and I'm a passionate defender of it. I think I don't know if I can necessarily say it's an underrated movie as far as Jurassic movies go, because it is pretty well beloved these days as far as the Jurassic franchise goes. But just as a movie in general, and as a Spielberg movie in particular, I think it's arguably his most underrated movie for sure. Yeah. I love the fact that it has a darker, meaner tone. I like the fact that it's something different than the first movie, but still progresses the story in a natural way. I love the characters for the most part. The action sequences are great. The score is great. The cinematography is great. Of course, the special effects are great. It's just a fun, it really is in a way a fun, I put modern in quotes because this came out near 30 years ago, but a fun modern callback to the old classic stop motion jungle movies like the original King Kong and the original Lost World. It really does harken back to that old B-movie adventure kind of tone. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if I can necessarily call it a classic because a lot of people, let's be real, outside Jurassic fans have kind of just forgotten about this movie. I feel like it's kind of gone on the rug. So it doesn't necessarily have the same cultural staying power that the first film has, but it does have some problems. Like I said, some of the writing and character development isn't as strong. Some moments do feel a bit contrived in their execution. The last act, while fun, does feel tacked on because in a way it kind of was. Some characters make really stupid decisions, but all those criticisms aside, I still do love this movie. So I'd probably give it, if it was going to be my personal ranking out of 10, a 9 out of 10. And based on yours, I would go with, has some antiquated moments, but overall is great. And in many ways still does stand the test of time, especially on a special effects level.
Absolutely. I'm with you. I think what you captured the whole essence there. I think it's underrated. Maybe not within the fandom. I do see people coming around to it now, but in the general populace, people talk about Jurassic Park. I'm going to say, hey, you should give the sequel a chance because I think it's every bit as well, maybe not every bit as tight as its predecessor, but the special effects, I think, in a lot of ways are stronger, and the animatronic work is more impressive in a lot of ways than in the first one. I think it's you talked about underrated Spielberg films. I think that's absolutely true. I mean, it's still him doing some really great work with the camera, with his storytelling, and when you talk about 90s action movies too, People love to talk about 90s action movies. I'm going to say you should throw Lost World into that conversation because the action and the adventure rocks in this movie. So much so that I do think it makes up for any lack of character work. And sure, things may be contrived, I admit, but all the other elements are so good. If you're just here for an action adventure thriller, I think it's going to make up for a couple of groan-worthy moments. So with that said, I think same as you, it is overall great. There are some cliche moments, but it does stand the test of time. I was very pleasantly surprised with this rewatch, and I'm going to be putting it at the top of a lot of my lists. And what a great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Like I said, I really enjoy talking about this kind of stuff, and I'm so excited that I got to finally be on because I do like what you guys do and that we have some of the same interests. It's really great. So, and if you ever want to bring me back to talk about other stuff, I'd be more than happy to come back. Like we could do Jurassic Park 3 if we wanted to. We could do Valley of Gwangi. I think it's obvious we both love that movie. So just anything dinosaur monster. I'm a huge Godzilla fan as well. I didn't mention that earlier, but I am. So if you ever want to talk about Godzilla movies, I'm definitely down for that as well.
Anytime we have a dinosaur movie on the list, you're the guy. We're going to call you. And I sincerely mean this. I appreciate this. And I think that, for future seasons of Camp Kaiju, I will think about covering more dinosaur movies.
Right.
So we have covered Valley of Gwangi. We have covered Dominion, The Lost World, and now The Lost World Jurassic Park. But
we could definitely do, I've already got some in my head. 1 million years BC, Land Unknown, Dinosaurus. Like, that's a great one. So, yeah, there's a lot of potential there for sure. Yeah, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts about Oak Street when that does eventually come out, because I'm definitely looking forward to that. So
yeah, likewise. Okay, dude. Well, talk about Cinematic Jurassic. Where can people find you? What do you got going on if you want to promote anything?
Yeah, so you can follow me on Instagram, Cinematic Jurassic. I post the occasional movie review, film rankings, news, anything. Don't really have anything major coming up, but yeah, just follow me on there if you'd like to chat or, hear me talk about movies and dinosaurs and things like that. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much everything I got going on.
Thank you. And listeners, thank you for hanging out with us. Please leave positive ratings and reviews for the show wherever you listen. Visit patreon.com/Camp Kaiju for additional videos, reviews, merchandise, and more. Other ways you can get in touch are campkaiju@gmail.com, campkaijupodcast.com, Instagram, or leave a voicemail at the number 612-470-2612. And Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with Media's mailbox music by Ben Cook Feltz. Thank you, friends, and until next time, stay campy.
Don't go into the long grass!